Right, we'll get started. So thank you all for joining us today for this webinar on understanding DSE and DSE assessments. Um, we'll go through some housekeeping rules just to get us all started. So if you can all make sure you just keep cameras and microphones off, will just help to minimize any distraction to other attendees, but also to the panel who are presenting for you guys today. Any questions, if you could use the Q&A button at the top of your screens, and we'll address hopefully all of those at the end of today's webinar. Just to then introduce you to what we'll be going through for our agenda. So Alice and Joe, who I will pass you both over to shortly, are going to go through an introduction to DSE assessments, both from a virtual and a face-to-face setting, some common issues and solutions which you may encounter or may need to implement yourselves, and some stuff around both mental health and MSK health in relation to your DSE and ergonomic setups. So in terms of today's panel and the people you'll be hearing from today, as myself, I'm the clinical educator and training lead here at PAM Physio Solutions. I actually won't be doing a great deal with you today. I will be leaving you in the more than capable hands of Alice Saunders and Joe Taylor-Davis, who are our advanced practitioners in DSE and ergonomics. So I will pass over to Alice to get you guys started.
Thank you, Dev. And hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. So like Dev said, we're going to go through the DSE. So a small introduction to DSE assessments. So for those of you who don't know, DSE stands for Display Screen Equipment. And a display screen can be classed as a monitor, laptop, tablet, or smartphone. So any sort of screen that you would be using. A DSE assessment is a workstation evaluation which is designed to ensure DSE users are working in a safe and ergonomically sound environment. A DSE user is an individual who uses a screen daily for continuous periods of 1 hour or more. So the importance of DSE assessments is to protect employee health, ensuring legal compliance and supporting workplace productivity. So why do they matter? Well, in regards to legal compliance, DSE assessments are a legal requirement under the Health and Safety Display Screen Equipment Regulations 1992 Act. And employers must assess and reduce risks for all DSE users. Like I mentioned previously, the DSE users are those who use screens daily for 1 hour or more. When we look at health and well-being, poorly set up workstations can lead to musculoskeletal disorders such as back, neck, shoulder pain, and we will go into these a little bit more later, eye strain and headaches, fatigue and stress. So regular assessments help identify and correct these issues early, preventing long-term health problems. We also look at it to reduce absenteeism. So proper workstation setup reduces the risk of injury and discomfort, which in turn lowers sickness absence, reduces healthcare and compensation costs. It can also improve productivity. So comfortable, ergonomically sound working environments help employees stay focused for longer, work more efficiently, and experience fewer distractions from discomfort. It also helps people who are working from home. And so DSE assessments ensure that home workstations are just as safe as and compliant as office workstations. So whether you are home, office, hybrid, doesn't matter what workstation it is, it supports everyone. And it also promotes a positive, safe culture. So it demonstrates that the employers value employee well-being and encourages self-awareness and proactive behaviour around health and safety. So when we look at the legal requirements for employers, like I said, display screen equipment, so DSE, assessments are governed by the Health and Safety Display Screen Equipment Regulations 1992 Act, which are enforced by the Health and Safety Executive, which is HSE. These regulations are designed to protect workers from health risks associated with prolonged use of screens. So employers must conduct a DSE workstation assessment for all employees who use DSE daily for 1 hour or more at a time. This includes office workers, home workers, mobile workers, and those who hot desk. They're there to reduce risks identified. So employers should adjust workstations, provide ergonomic equipment, or change work routines to reduce risks like musculoskeletal disorders, eye strains, and fatigue. Employers also must provide eye tests, so they must offer an eye test on request to any DSE user and provide glasses if needed specifically for DSE use. Employers should also offer training and information to ensure that workers understand how to set up their workstations correctly and take regular breaks. And they should also review assessments. So once there has been a change to a workstation, the user's health or the nature of the work, the employer should then review the assessment.
Thank you, Alice. So I'm going to just take you through what you have a look at here of the basic standard workstation setup. So we'll just go through each of the points one by one. So here at number 1, what we're looking at here is what we're after is the top quarter of the screen is level, your eyes are level with the top quarter of the screen, and the screen is about arm's length away. And a tip to remember as well is to check that the screen height is again sort of adjusted if the seat and the desk height is moved. And then looking at number 2, relax your shoulders and rest the upper back against the backrest for support and good posture to help avoid with slouching. And the chair should be high enough so that the shoulders are not raised when typing. And to check this, have the elbows directly under the shoulders, so nice and relaxed, and the elbows at 90 degrees. And as you can see here in the picture, the forearms are horizontal to the work surface and the wrists are nice and straight. And then this brings us nicely to number 3. So the keyboard is sort of just below the elbow height, and the position of the keyboard and mouse is usually no further than 10 centimeters away from the edge of the desk. And the mouse can be used on either the right or the left hand, obviously, which is your preference. And keep close to the keyboard to avoid repetitive overuse movements or rotation of the shoulder and elbow joint. And then point 4, so the seat height equally supports the front and back of the thighs. Sometimes we can use a cushion to raise our seated position, but the seat is generally height adjustable and can be positioned to an optimal height for the individual, as explained in point 2. And once the seat height is set, if the feet are not flat on the floor, then a footrest is generally recommended. And then point 5, you see there, the back of the seat provides good lower back support, and again a cushion could be provided for additional back support. And ideally the backrest should be adjusted in height and tilt. And then point 6, there ideally should be a gap of say 2 to 3 centimeters behind from the front of the seat pan to behind the knee. So it's around like say 2 finger widths. Some chairs do have a seat slide, and this will allow the individual to move the seat forward and back so you get the right depth there and full thigh support. And then lastly, 7, so the computer and screen is directly in front of you or on another surface, and if multiple screens are used, then the DSE assessor can discuss with and offer advice for optimal screen setup for that individual task's use. And then to consider as well additional points when setting up your laptop for prolonged use. Always use a separate keyboard and mouse and have the laptop so that it's elevated on a riser or something similar. And recommends that this display screen is separate from the laptop as well, so try and use a separate screen. Okay. What to expect from a DSE assessor? Trained DSE assessors can help you recognise workstation layouts, environments and practices that may not be used or set up appropriately for your needs. So the assessor will also provide you with advice, education to adjust your workstation appropriately, ensuring you are reducing the risks of any MSK issues. So the assessor will ask a few questions around your job role and use of DSE equipment. And they'll also sort of talk to you about what aggravates and eases those symptoms. They'll observe you at the workstation as well and look at how you're using the keyboard and mouse and how your chair's positioned. And they'll recommend some adjustments in the positioning of your existing equipment and working posture if required. And if necessary, recommend alternative equipment. And with your consent, they may take photos of your workstation and record the details of the assessment in your clinical notes and provide a report to your referring manager.
So we're going to talk now about the different types of assessments that we do within PAM Physio Solutions. So the first one I'm going to talk you through is the virtual DSE assessments. And they are a full DSE assessment which is conducted via Teams. So very similar to like we are now. Before the assessment, you will receive an email that contains the date and time of the appointment with helpful tips to ensure the assessment is completed successfully and the Teams link. These tips do include that if you are not familiar with Teams, to trial before the assessment to ensure the camera and mic are working correctly. To join the call on a phone or device where you can move the camera so that you can show the assessor all your pieces of equipment. To ensure you are at the correct workstation, to ensure there is a confidential space for when talking through your medical history, and to have a tape measure ready to hand for any measurements required during the assessment. So how these assessments kind of run then. So the beginning of the assessment will cover your medical history. So this is where you would need to be in that confidential space. And this allows the assessor, to gain a greater understanding of the reason for the assessment and if there are any musculoskeletal issues that are already being experienced. Once the medical history is being completed, the assessor will then ask the individual to go back to their workstation if they've had to move to a confidential space. If not, and they're already there, they will ask them to show you their workstation and all the equipment that is being used. So that will include the desk, the chair, the laptop, any monitors, keyboard, mice, risers, footrests, any other equipment that you are using at your workstation. The assessor will then go through all of the pieces of equipment and any other equipment that you may be using to check that it meets HSE minimum requirements, that it is positioned correctly and is suitable for the individual needs. If it is not suitable or positioned correctly and modifications can be made on the day, the assessor will talk the individual through these modifications so that they can be completed during the assessment. If further equipment is required, the assessor will go through this with the individual and they may even share their screen to show you the different types of equipment that they are looking at, they're talking about, and they will recommend for you. Once this assessment has been completed, the assessor will complete a report, as Jo said, which contains the findings from the assessment, and it will then be uploaded onto our internal system for your referring manager to view.
Thank you, Alice. So I'm going to talk you through an in-person DSE assessment, and you will hear it's very similar to that of the assessment done on Teams. So face-to-face DSE assessments are generally booked if the referring manager requests one and that the employee may have ongoing MSK issues, and we feel that a face-to-face would be more beneficial for that individual. So tips for a successful face-to-face assessment. So ensure you are at the correct location for the DSE assessment. So if you need the assessor to observe you, say, at the office workstation rather than the home workstation, then you would obviously need to be at the office for us to look at that. In addition, if you cannot make the appointment, notify the manager or PAM Physio Solutions at least 48 hours before so that the appointment can be rescheduled. Yourself and the assessor will need to be in a confidential space for the first part of the appointment, and this is to discuss your medical history and any other parts of the assessment that we can't talk about in an open plan office. A few questions will also be asked around the person's job role and the use of DSE equipment, what aggravates and eases their symptoms, And the assessor will ask the individual to show them how their workstation and all the equipment being used, including, like what Alice has said, the desk, the chair, the laptop, the monitor and the mouse. And the assessor will go through all of this equipment, also watch you using that equipment, and check other equipment that may be used to check that it meets HSE minimum requirements and it's positioned correctly and is suitable for that person. The DSE assessor may recommend some adjustments in positioning of existing equipment. They might suggest posture, different types of posture, and also make these adjustments during the assessment. The assessor will also, if necessary, recommend alternative equipment, and they may also take some measurements as well. In some instances, and with consent from the individual, photos of the workstation, furniture or DSE equipment can be taken and added to the clinical notes and report. And then the assessor will, as exactly the same as a video assessment, will record the details of the assessment in the notes and provide a detailed report for the referring manager, and the report is uploaded on our internal system.
Perfect. So those are our individual DSE assessments, so the virtual and face-to-face. We do also now offer a new service, which is a DSE walkabout service. And this service can be bespoke to the individual client needs as well. And the DSE walkabout service is more looking at the office as a whole, so the environment, and then going through the office and speaking to individuals separately. However, we don't conduct a full DSE assessment per individual on the day. So what it kind of looks like is, on the day, the assessor will provide an overview of the office space required, and then they will begin to speak to employees individually, making sure that these employees they speak to, that their workstations are set up correctly. And if they're not, and they do notice anything like a monitor being too high, they will make the adjustment whilst they are on site and lower that monitor for the individual, just to ensure that all the workstations that they see are meeting HSE minimum requirements. This service will also allow to help identify those who may require a more detailed ergonomic workstation assessment referral, like the video, to the virtual or the face-to-face ones that we've just spoke about. They will also allow the assessor to make generic recommendations regarding workstations and the work environment observed. So if the person doesn't need a full DSE workstation assessment, but they do just need a separate keyboard, we're able to make that recommendation on the day and pop it in our report without that individual needing a full DSE workstation assessment if they've got no musculoskeletal issues. During the assessment, employees do also have the opportunity to share any issues regarding their DSE setup and go up to the assessor and speak to them if they feel they need to, or if they've got any questions. They can also ask around their equipment or any musculoskeletal concerns. In addition, observations would be explained and possible solutions would be offered straight away, like I've mentioned, or recommendations for a full DSE assessment would be made where necessary, and everything that is done throughout the day is created into one big report, which is sent to the requester of the service, essentially, to then distribute out to the relevant managers for the actions to be done. So whether that is further pieces of equipment, whether that is modifications that couldn't be made on the day for any reason, or whether that is a referral for a full DSE assessment for an individual employee. And that report is completed separately away from site, and that takes half a day to complete.
Thank you, Alice. So we've mentioned MSK issues quite a lot here. So musculoskeletal is sort of joint pain, muscle pain, and we're going to sort of talk through a little bit more now about identifying common DSE related issues, which could be from poor posture, also eye strain and repetitive strain injuries. And then we'll have a look at some of the practical solutions and adjustments to enhance the comfort and productivity there as well. So lower back pain That's a very common issue that people have reported in. And the possible adjustments that we would make to help reduce the risk of aggravation to lower back pain would be set the seat up, so make sure that's adjusted appropriately for that person, it's more comfortable. We recommend micro breaks, looking at their posture, knee and hip positioning, and also, if possible, we might need to recommend some cushions, support cushions, maybe a different chair or height adjustable desk, depending on the issues with that particular individual. Another issue could be upper back pain. So again, it could be posture that's contributing to that issue. It could be an injury that person's occurred. So we'll have a look at all that, and then we can change the seat setup for more comfortable posture. Again, recommend micro breaks. And also screen height and positioning is quite a common one for upper back issues, having the screen too low and looking down. And again, we can recommend maybe support cushions, different chairs, or height adjustable desks and furniture if necessary. Neck pain is another issue that's commonly reported, and very similar to what I've said already. Again, the seat setup. So there's a similar theme going on here. Quite often we see chairs just being slightly too low or too high can contribute to quite a few different MSK issues. So we need to check that. Again, micro breaks, so sitting for prolonged periods, again, is a huge issue, and the body needs to move regularly. Looking at their posture and screen height and positioning, and again, looking at different equipment to help the person manage with those symptoms. Upper limb pain. Again, we can have a look at, the seat height, positioning of the mouse and keyboard is very important, and the screens, and just look at all the equipment that they use. Additional equipment that might help them manage those particular symptoms could be an ergonomic mouse, a keyboard, wrist supports, even a clamp that goes on to help support the shoulder, just leaning with their forearm on the clamp, and different laptop risers. Another thing that people may report as an issue with using DSE equipment is eye strain. So it's again the positioning of the screens, looking at the overhead lighting and the lighting coming in from the window. Aircon can also contribute possibly to dry eyes as well, and recommending regular optician checkups as for somebody who who uses DSE regularly, and also eye breaks. So looking away from the screen every 20 minutes. Lower limb pain and edema, which is sort of swelling. We have a look at foot positioning. Looking at whether the person, when they're sitting at the correct height, whether they need a footrest or even a leg rest if leg elevation is needed. And again, having an understanding of their tasks and whether they're including micro breaks within their day and movement breaks, and just see what we can help to recommend there. So lastly, the mental health, stress, health issues, and juggling work and life balance can all have an impact on our overall mental health, which in turn can have an impact on our physical health. For example, pain symptoms can sometimes feel worse when we are stressed or have low mood. It can be helpful to talk to colleagues, managers, GPs, friends, families, or even helplines like Mind and Samaritans. And at work, it's looking at your working environment, your working area, just to ensure that it's comfortable. You're taking those regular micro breaks and with movement, drinking plenty of water, go out if possible at lunchtime. And together, these small steps can help to improve our mental health. And it may in turn help reduce physical pain symptoms, which Alice will go through as well with you a bit more.
Yeah, indeed. So we're just going to have a little quick look at mental health and musculoskeletal health and the impacts that they may have on each other. So our mental health can directly impact our physical well-being. So individuals suffering from mental health conditions are more likely to develop musculoskeletal disorders, amplifying the physical discomfort and pain they endure. So how mental health influences musculoskeletal health then? So stress and anxiety can lead to muscle tension, poor posture, and reduced physical activity, all of which contribute to musculoskeletal pain and disorders. People experiencing depression or anxiety may be less likely to engage in physical activity or self-care, which can worsen musculoskeletal conditions. And mental health conditions can amplify the perception of pain, making musculoskeletal symptoms feel more severe than they are. If we flip that and look at how musculoskeletal health influences mental health then, so chronic musculoskeletal pain, like Joe's mentioned, back pain, neck pain, you might be getting shoulder, elbow pain, arthritis, anything along those lines, is strongly associated with depression and anxiety. Studies show that up to 65% of people with chronic pain also experience depression. And persistent physical discomfort can lead to emotional distress, social withdrawal, and reduced quality of life, all of which contribute to poor mental health. So with this, it shows that both mental health and musculoskeletal health have quite a big impact on each other.
Fab. Thank you, Joe and Alice, so much for taking us all through a really informative webinar. And obviously, thank you to everybody who has joined this afternoon as well. I can see that there is a comment in the Q&A section, so we'll run through that as well. But if anyone else has any other questions, please do feel free to put them either into the Q&A or the chat function, and we'll keep an eye on both. We'll obviously give you a couple of minutes to type up anything you may need to. Joe, Alice, one for you guys that's come through from Emily. Emily's asked, would you recommend any training to be a DSE assessor? I am an OT by background, so have a good understanding of ergonomic stroke DSE setup already.
Joe, do you want to take it or me?
Go on then, you go.
Oh, no, that's fine.
I have got something to, yeah.
Go on, you go for
internally
it.
train, don't they? A lot of companies will internally train an employee into the basics of DSE assessments. And then where necessary, if an MSK issue is raised, it will then be more referred to one of us in the occupational health team. Alice, have you got anything to add to that?
Not massively. I think kind of what Joe said, you will find that a lot of companies can do that internal training, and it is quite good as well because it just gives you a little bit more knowledge and understanding, and you won't necessarily be dealing with people who are experiencing massive musculoskeletal issues, because that would come more to us. But you may find that you might be walking around the office and you just notice some of your colleagues aren't sat quite correctly, or their keyboard's a bit too far away, or their screen doesn't look quite right, and it will just give you that bit of confidence to actually go over to that colleague and say, oh, you know, I've noticed that you're sat like this, or your screen is positioned in this way, like, oh, did you know that it should be an arm's length away, or things like that. And without you even noticing, you would be helping the colleagues around you to ensure that they're actually reducing their risk of injury or musculoskeletal issues as well, and you would then be passing that further knowledge on to them. So I think it's always quite a good thing, especially if you're using it quite often, to have a little bit more of a greater understanding around it. So it could be something worth looking into and seeing if your employer does do it, and we can also help with that training as well if needed.
Yeah, because it's great to just raise that awareness, isn't it, throughout the office, and it's preventative at the end of the day. We want to try and prevent these issues occurring, isn't it, in the first place?
Indeed.
Thank you both. I can't see any other questions that have come in just yet, but we will give it another few minutes. So again, if anyone does have any, feel free to either use the chat function or the Q&A function as well, and either is absolutely fine. There's one in the chat. Laura has asked, I'm only working from a laptop. Is there a best way for me to set this up so it is ergonomic?
Yeah, so for people who do just work from laptops, we would ideally, if you've got no musculoskeletal issues, want to look at the HSE minimum requirements and making sure that that workstation is still meeting those requirements. And the easiest way to do that is with what we call a laptop pack. And a laptop pack includes a laptop riser, a separate mouse and a separate keyboard. And by having these pieces of equipment, it means that you can position your laptop, if you are using it then as the screen, at the correct height and the correct distance on the laptop riser. It then means that also by having the separate mouse and keyboard, it allows you to have that laptop at the correct height with no overstretching or overreaching to reach the keyboard and mouse. But it then means that you can have your keyboard and mouse positioned in front of you and, like Joe mentioned, no further than 10 centimetres away from the edge of the desk. So we would advise that laptop pack to ensure that you've got the equipment that you're using and it is all positioned correctly on the desk to reduce any musculoskeletal issues.
Fab. Thank you, Alice. Can't see any others that have come through. Laura just said thank you, so I'm assuming
No worries.
we've answered her question. But yeah, I can't see any other questions that have come through at all. Just double check the Q&A bit. Fab. So there isn't anything else in terms of questions. If anyone does want to have a couple more minutes, that's absolutely fine. I'll just share this slide with you whilst we're giving you guys another minute or two. This is just a link to our website. It has a absolute huge range of downloadable content. There's lots of different resources. We do have some blogs, some videos, various guides, leaflets, booklets, podcast recordings that we've done to give you a bit more information and content, not just around DSE and ergonomic support, but around various other occupational health topics as well. So please do feel free to have a look at that. All of that is on our website, as I say, so it's free for you to download and view. These slides will also be shared with everybody who has joined today, so you can always look back through the content which Joe and Alice have provided and spoken through. And then just our final slide is an opportunity to join our mailing list, and that then gives you a further opportunity to keep up with our latest news and updates and invites to future free events and webinars. And again, has a nice amount of material to help hopefully support your well-being and your workforces as well. And if you would like a excuse me, a one-to-one consultation to go through anything that Joe and Alice have spoken about today, or if it has started to trigger that there may be something about your own setup which isn't quite right, please do just get in touch with us. Our email is there, physiosolutions@people-am.com, and one of our client services team will be more than happy to assist getting you booked in and getting you some additional support if that is also what you require. I think otherwise I can't see any questions that have come in whilst I've been talking away. So Alice and Joe, thank you both very much for a very informative and very helpful webinar.